Hi, I'm Jason Garrett, and welcome to Dadograms, where my goal is to help you learn how to win in life. Now, sometimes that means teaching you a practical skill, sometimes that's a life lesson from the Navy or for business, and sometimes, like today, it's something I've only recently learned myself. And if you stick with me through this one, I think it'll help you understand yourself a little bit better, and maybe some people you know. Let's start with something that a lot of people think they understand, but in fact don't. Some of you have probably heard about introverts and extroverts. They're often used as personality labels. Extroverts are people persons, always out, always talking, always energized by the crowd. Introverts, well, they're shy, they're quiet. They don't like people. That's the popular stereotypes, but it's wrong, or at least incomplete. The real difference between being an extrovert and an introvert is about where you get your energy. That's it. That's all there is to it. Extroverts recharge by being around people. Introverts recharge by being alone or in smaller, quieter settings. It's not about whether you like people. Many introverts love people. It's about where you draw your energy from. And that's really it. Well, with a few twists. Now here's where the nuances come in, some of which I've only recently realized myself. Not all introverts are the same. I am what is called a mission-driven introvert. That means I absolutely do not get a thrill out of random talk or aimless networking. Going to a big social group like that is absolutely an energy suck in every way, shape, and form. I can't stand them. But if there's a mission involved, a task I have to do, and a compelling purpose for doing it, well, then I can be around people all day and not feel drained. In fact, in the Navy, I thrived in that environment. I could lead departments and detachments, speak to audiences of thousands, travel halfway around the world for meetings, and I'd come home energized, charged. In fact, when I first noticed this about myself, I was the flag aide for a very, very introverted admiral, which made me quite literally his front man. I was fully energized for that role the entire time, and I loved it because shielding him from all of that, well, that was the mission. Now, I've always kind of known this. I knew I was an introvert and I could do very social things as long as they were mission orientated. And in doing them, I would enjoy them. I'd get a charge out of it, but apparently there's a whole other factor involved that I had never ever known about until recently. And many of you might find it important to consider too. I can do great social things as a mission-oriented introvert, but I'm way better at it if I have someone with me, someone close by my side. Sometimes that's my family or a single family member, usually my wife. So if I were to go to a social gathering, for instance, where I didn't have a real mission, if my wife was there too, having her along with me could strengthen me, embolden me, recharge me even while amidst a crowd. And again, this is something I kind of always knew. But in the Navy, I was sometimes a world away from my family. And apparently during those times, I relied on someone else and didn't even appreciate it at the time. When I was deployed with the Navy on a ship or traveling around the world, I always had my team nearby. My squadron mates, shipmates, detachments, air crews. In many ways, my family away from my family, who were able to energize and embolden me as necessary. Belonging to that group while away from my family was critical. I always knew that they had my back just as I had theirs. And now that I'm out of the Navy, I'm starting to really and truly realize how much my teams away from my family meant to me, an introvert. Now, I saw a hint of this toward the end of my career. During my last tour in the Navy, I traveled around the world once or twice a month. Now, we weren't together all the time, sometimes just meeting up for dinner in the evening, maybe riding in together to teach in the morning. The rest of the time, we were completely on our own, or we were teaching. But knowing they were around and that I could reach out to them quickly apparently was enough to strengthen me, to keep me going. And on one of my very last trips, I had to break away from my team just after we'd been teaching in Amsterdam for about a week. They flew home, and I had to go on to Sicily. And as soon as they went one way and I went the other, I could feel their absence. I could remember feeling truly alone. And it was great to finally get to Sicily, where I could then get to a squadron that I was supposed to go to, where I had some familiar faces, so that I could at least have somebody around me that I had some association with. It truly did make me feel better, even though I still in many ways missed having my team nearby. So that was a year and a half ago, just before I retired. And now that I am retired, home with my family all the time, I hadn't thought a bit about any of this until recently. I did a big trip on my own, and the experience was enlightening. It caught me completely off guard. I traveled all by myself 700 miles away for a conference, about 5 days long, and I didn't know anybody there. No family to meet up with in the evenings, no friends, no team. And oh, by the way, this event went late into the night every single night, so I hardly even got to talk to my family on the phone. Being alone, I didn't have any quick meetups with familiar faces, just to say hi in the halls. No one familiar to have dinner with, no one to debrief with at the end of the day's events. No one I knew in the building at all. Just me wandering through a massive conference hall with a badge and a schedule and totally feeling alone amidst thousands of strangers. The energy suck for this introvert was killer. I didn't like the experience at all. Not because the event was bad, not because the people were unfriendly, but because for the first time in a long time, I felt unmoored, completely disconnected. Not just alone, but actually lonely. And I honestly, God, didn't think I could ever be lonely. I've never been lonely, even when I was alone, because, well, I always knew I had my family around or my team members around, and this time, I didn't. So here's the thing I started figuring out. Being an introvert doesn't mean that you can handle total isolation. It means you need the right kind of connection, the kind that doesn't drain you, the kind that gives you purpose. In fact, the kind that can actually help energize you. In the Navy, that's why being part of a unit is so great for an introvert. It's not just about the coordination, but the belonging. That's why fire teams, squadrons, and detachments really matter to folks like me. That's why we have call signs and shared rituals and inside jokes, because when you strip away all of that, when you take away both the mission and the people you trust, an introvert can feel alone and sapped completely of energy. And this is where it hit me. That's what I bet a lot of you are going through out there right now. That same feeling is exactly what some people experience when they step into a new chapter in their life without a built-in support network. The classic example is a student that goes 1,000 miles away from home for college, not fully understanding that they are, in fact, an introvert. Suddenly they are totally alone, knowing almost no one, eating meals alone, walking to class alone, and wondering if anyone would notice if they just up and disappeared one day. Now, if you have a few ready-made groups like I did in college, like my ROTC unit, or for some of you out there, maybe a sorority or a fraternity, sports teams, or even a job, on or off campus, it doesn't matter. As long as you have a few consistent faces that you see routinely, who for a time you have to integrate with, well, that mission-driven integration very quickly changes everything. It's not about partying or being super social. It's about having familiar people who you know deep down you can talk to and work with, who have your back if things go sideways. But without that, an introvert can quietly implode, and I've seen it happen. They start to feel like the whole place is against them, and without some intentional steps to plug in somewhere, it can be a downward spiral. That's why when one of our kids started looking at colleges lately, my wife and I got proactive. My daughter's a phenomenal athlete, could run at any college, and we've encouraged her to keep doing that in college. Not just for the competition, but for the built-in tribe, the schedule, the people who notice if she doesn't show up. Because the truth is, introverts need people too. They just need the right people. And she is, as it turns out, an introvert. I think my entire family is, actually. Now, for you extroverts out there, I can't really talk to that. I wouldn't know firsthand. I'm definitely not an extrovert. I don't get energy from social gatherings and mixers. But the extroverts I know seem to be able to drop into a city or a campus or a random cookout and walk away with 14 new friends, all their business cards, 3 dinner invitations, and I never understood how the heck they do that. But I guess if that's where you're getting your energy, that certainly does help. For me, it would be a complete and total drain. So, I can't give you extroverts any true advice, except what I've been saying, so that you can understand us, introverts, a little better. So if any of you have been feeling off lately, like something's missing that you can't quite put your finger on it, it might not always be burnout, it might not always be anxiety. Sometimes you're just trying to do life without your family or team. And until someone tells you that, you might not figure it out. After all, it's only taken me, 50 some years to figure it out? So if you're young and still figuring yourself out, here's the takeaway. Learn whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. Not from stereotypes, but from experience. Where do you get your energy from? That's the question to ask, and for Pete's sakes, be honest in answering it. It's an important thing to know. Next, figure out how to recharge your energy, and then build your life to protect that, to ensure that you have what you need to energize and thrive wherever you go. And if you're like me, a mission-driven introvert, remember, you still need people. You just need the right ones with you. So keep your tribe close, anchor yourself to the mission that matters, and go forth and conquer. Okay? All right, folks. If you found this helpful, I hope you'll subscribe and go back through some of my earlier Dadograms, because they truly are evergreen. You can watch them anytime, and they're just as good for you the day I recorded them as they are 10 years from now. There's always something you could learn that will help you win in life. And until next time, always keep learning for yourself. It's one of the very best ways to win.